Hi there, I know it's been a long time since I've last made a video. I've been really busy recently with uni stuff, settling into my new flat. I had loads of assignments I've had to do, so I've been a little bit lax with this, but I'm going to try and get back on it and try and make videos more regularly again. So today I'm going to be talking about The Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie. I really enjoyed the book. It's a really interesting story about a woman who buys a house in the UK and has all these weird instinctive feelings, and it comes to light that she used to live there and she has repressed memories from the house, and essentially the plot of the story is to find out the truth behind her repressed memories. Were they dreams or were they true? What made the book mostly so compelling was the fact that it had very fully formed characters. So even the smaller characters within the novel were very believable, and they had a good function in the novel. They weren't just placed there to be there to, fill up a little bit of time, to fill up a conversation. And then the main characters, obviously you've got Miss Marple, and then the husband and wife in the novel whose house was sort of being investigated. They were really fully rounded characters, and you got a sense that they had a lot of emotions and background and history, and a lot of that was explained to you, but a lot of it you picked up through inference, which I thought was really nice to read. It was a very clever storyline. As I said, it's about a woman who had a very instinctive feeling about the house. One example is she was sleeping in a room and she was like, oh, this would make a really lovely nursery. Oh, it'd be really lovely if there was wallpaper on the walls that had certain types of flowers on them. I can't remember what the flowers were now. I think I want to say it was poppies and sort of some wild blue flowers. Then she opened the cupboard just to check storage in the room of her new house, and found that wallpaper was already on the walls inside the cupboard, and the rest of the room had simply been redecorated. So a lot of it's about these weird instinctive feelings, these memories that the woman moving into the house had, and how actually they were all coming true, and it was all part of reality somehow. And yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see how it all came together. Obviously it's very indicative of gender roles. Women are generally associated with emotions and feelings, whereas men tend to be, more closely associated with logic and rational thought. And that does come across quite easily in the novel as well. The husband's like, oh dear, you're just being a little bit emotional, you're just being a little bit hysterical, for want of a better word. So it's kind of, that's how it begins, until he begins to sort of see, actually, logically, there is a reason why this is happening, so we'll find out. And they just happen to bump into Miss Marple, as everybody always seems to bump into Miss Marple, and she comes along and helps them find out what's happening. And obviously, Miss Marple books happen like that. Miss Marple just happens to know someone in the village, or just happens to be at a hotel, very much like all the Agatha Christie books. Poirot is very similar, but Miss Marple's cases often happen in the domestic, and I think that is reflective of the fact that she's an elderly woman. Women generally are associated with the domestic, or they were, or they still are, but they were more. And as a sort of dottery old lady, she isn't taken very seriously, so she's able to just move around the environment that she's in, and she can see more, she can hear more, she kind of picks up information, just because people don't really sort of take her seriously, so they think they can tell her things and she's just going to be a silly old lady. And she'll just forget this little hint and this little clue, and then come the end of the novel, she's like, well, hang on a minute, I've solved all this shit, I got it down. And that's a very English way of crime novels happening, particularly in the Agatha Christie period, sort of. I think she wrote from like the 20s to the 80s, something very ridiculous. She wrote for a very long time, but that's how the genre was when she started writing, and that's how most of her novels continued. And it's interesting to compare it to American books, which I'll be doing soon, because I'm going to do a review on The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. But anyway, back to this one. There's a lot of dialogue in the book, again, like there was like I mentioned in the Poirot story by Agatha Christie, which I think is really interesting. But this book particularly had a lot of colloquial dialogue. It was set in the West Country, and there was lots of phrases and colloquialisms that were very, very indicative of the fact that they were in a rural setting, and most of the people speaking like that were working class. So they were gardeners, maids, house servants, lots of things like that. And it was definitely a comment on class. I think you would be silly to not think that it was a comment on class, that this was being done. I'm not sure personally if it was a negative or a positive comment on class. Agatha Christie was very of her time and was very, like, traditional, so it probably was a comment on class, on how the working class were the house people, and that's just how shit was. But there we go. I found it really easy to read. I read it quite quickly. It's quite a short book. There are a few instances in the novel where time jumped very, very quickly, and I got quite confused. So suddenly it would be sort of days later or an hour later, and there was really no clear indication that had happened. But apart from that, it was really easy. The chapter lengths were nice and short, so it meant that the narrative and the plot sort of proceeded very quickly, and it was proceeding at a good time rate, which was really, really good as well. And obviously at the end, everything gets resolved, everything's all happy, everything goes back to how it should be, because crime fiction is essentially about escapism. So you read a crime novel and, you know, there's a murder, or there's a burglary, or there are many, you know, other types of crime, but at the end of the novel it's okay, because everything ends up right in the eyes of morals, and everything goes back to normal, and the husband and the wife are happy to do ever after. And yeah, and that's the whole point, is that you can go into this reality, this bad stuff happens, but you are completely safe knowing that at the end of the novel everything's going to go back to normal. So yeah, so that's kind of what I thought of that book. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend it. I will try and read some more Agatha Christie at some point. However, third year means there are loads and loads of books that I actually have to read, which is fun. Yay! So yeah, I will try and make another video soon. I understand I've been a bit slack with it recently. I might do The Big Sleep next. I think that'd be quite interesting to compare it to Christie. So yeah, hopefully I will get another video done for you soon in the next week and a half or so. Bye!